Good afternoon, everybody. John Thompson. I'm here to talk to you about Part 8 of my conversion of the Revell USS Arizona to the USS Pennsylvania. In this video, I'm going to show you work I've done. I've added photo etch to a lot of the model. I've put railings in place on the superstructure, as well as around the various decks, and sort of transformed the model. In a second here, I'm going to show it to you. I also want to let you know, too, that I did do other things like add the screws to the hull, because I figured it was about the time I could do that. Now the next step is going to be painting these photo etch details. Unfortunately for that, I have to have the paint on order. So here is the model and what I've done, and I'll show it to you right now. Here we're looking at the port side. You can see I've added the photo etch railings. These railings on the main deck were actually very easy for me to do. These railings, sort of, you have to bend them a little bit. Typically, I use a needle nose plier to get an angled bend, but for a more rounded bend, what I'll use is a drill bit to about the appropriate radius on the curve, typically, and I'll bend typically at the center of where that is. So if it's a quarter bend, I'll do that. And there were a couple instances of quarter bends. That's one way to shape these rails. Another way to shape the rails is to follow the contour of the hull itself. You could do that as well, and that will work. Here you can also take a look at my forward superstructure. You will notice that I've added photo etch on here since the last video, and it does make a difference in the detailing. It really does finish it off and sort of give a little more function to it. I also added the stairs in between the forward superstructure and the funnel. That was another addition. Now you'll notice too, these stick thingies with a tub on them. I looked at the picture by James Flood of the USS Pennsylvania, and I did see these tubs, and I also confirmed their existence in a plan in Myron Smith's book of the USS Pennsylvania in her 1935 configuration. So I did model those. All it just is basically a little bit of the leg from the spare tripod mast leg I had, and that was what I did. And I added a ladder stock on it and had a gun tub photo etch piece, which instead of making it open in the back with an opening, I did a perfectly round piece and attached it to a piece of styrene. I used the leftover 3-inch gun. I removed the barrel to make that device that they show in the plans, which looked very similar to the 3-inch gun turret without the barrel. So that was another detail that I had added and worked on. You will notice too that these railings in the superstructure, they were a challenge to do. They were not as difficult as I thought they would be, but it did take a while longer to do it, mainly because I didn't have full access to the decks. So it did affect my ability to do photo etching, mainly with the sets of 2 long stairs in the back. It did make it a little bit tougher to hang that railing connecting between the 2 of them. So I did get it done, but it just took a couple tries to do it. Now another thing I did, I'm going to turn this on its side here so you can see better. I did add the machine guns. You'll notice them, if you can see them here, in the machine gun nest on the foremast here. That was done, and I did likewise on the main mast as well. You'll see that. And you will also notice on the hull, without bouncing it around too much, and I apologize for that, you'll also notice too that in addition to replacing the rails with photo etch, I also replaced the boarding ladders. Revell has some pretty basic, crude boarding ladders, and I replaced them with photo etch. This is again in the gold medals kit that you get, and they look a lot better. And so I did that on the port, and I'm also going to turn it around here and show you the starboard side. Here you'll see the starboard side had 2 of them. You basically follow the directions and you bend them according to that. They do fit nicely over the holes, except for this one spot on the starboard side here, which I had to actually use a very small piece of styrene. The plug I had put in somehow popped out during the process of filling it in. Now you also notice too that I did paint and attach the planes. They're aboard the ship. Now another thing I did do, I said I wasn't going to use that photo etch railing for the captain's boats, the motor launches, but I decided to go ahead and do that and it actually did make a difference in the model. So I did it on 2 of the boats, and that got done. And like I said, that's basically really it in terms of the photo etch. Now, one other thing I do want to point out is these boat cranes. The boat cranes that sit up here, I had to redo them on the top. Basically, Tom's photo etch doesn't really show much. They just show a piece, and they don't tell you to save anything or throw anything away. They show you what you had to cut off from the original Revell casting. Now, looking at the gold medal castings and the gold medal kit, I basically had to sort of work around and combine the two ideas. The idea being that I could save that top part of the set of cranes. Luckily, I had a spare set of cranes that I could cannibalize the parts from, so that was not a big deal there. Now, the one thing that Tom suggests that gold medal doesn't is putting ladders on these cranes. So I do have brass ladder stock in the photo etch set. I may put it on there, although I am looking to do photo etch on turret number 3 on the starboard side. So that's the next goal. And then I'm also looking to do further work on the model in terms of rigging it eventually and ordering some paint. I have to basically order that same color through testers. Hopefully, maybe I'll find it on eBay and get it sent to me, because I don't have very much left to paint the photo etch details. So I'll bring you around to the bow again. You can see the work I did on the rails on the starboard side of the ship here. And you'll notice that it does make the difference in the model when looking at it. The whole superstructure just looks a lot better, a lot more finished with the photo etch added. So I definitely, like I said, these are enhancements to the model that definitely improve its appearance, and it's well worth the time to invest in it. The only thing, like I said, I'm disappointed in with Revell is I wish that they had an aftermarket deck product to outfit to this kit. This would have been a good candidate for it. Unfortunately, because the scale is very odd scale, the parts and aftermarket is very limited for this. So this would be in terms of getting more appropriate aircraft. For instance, if you want to model a later vintage of the Pennsylvania, you may have to use a 1/400th scale aircraft instead of 1/426. So they will be slightly oversized. So that's something to keep in mind when you do a later version of the ship. Other than that, like I said, it's really coming along. There's going to be more work to do on her yet. I still have yet to add some more decals. The big elusive decal that I'm having trouble finding is the actual name change now. The stock Revell decal gives you an Arizona. They don't give you a Pennsylvania. So I have to look around for some authentic Navy letters to put on the back of the ship, or the stern, on both sides, to indicate that she's the USS Pennsylvania and not the USS Arizona. So this is basically where I'm at today, and hope you guys enjoyed viewing this presentation. I am going to show more photographs in my next presentation, possibly a slideshow, to give you a better idea of what the ship looks like. So I know this video is probably not doing justice to what I've actually done to this model, but it will transform your model of the photo etch, and it takes it from being basically a junky model to a quality model. I do have one thing to add before I go, and it's basically with the mast tops. Gold medal models gives you photo etch that you add onto the Revell parts for the mast tops. Now, I tried putting it on one just to see what it would look like. My result is I'm not happy with it at all, and I will tell you why. It only does the lower parts of the tripod, not the upper parts, and I don't like the joinery and the sloppiness of the window castings that are in the tripods. You also have to cut out the windows so that the windows will show on the tripod mast tops. Now, the 3D printed ones I got from Shapeways. The 3D printed mast tops from Shapeways are actually a much better product. They look a lot nicer and are actually more accurate and in keeping with what is prototype, and they look a lot. They look a lot better. There's more detail to them and more parts that are on them. So for that I do like that, and they do make a nice addition to go with that custom superstructure. Anyway, have a great day, and this is the end of part 8.